wearing a face mask for the safety of those around you. The lobby is closed. Please move directly into the house. At this time, food and beverages are not allowed in the PAC or the lobby. You may store these items in the designated tables prior to entering the house. The lobby is closed. Please move directly into the house. Please remember to take all items and trash with you as you leave the PAC. There are several trash and recycling bins located in the lobby on your way out. The lobby is closed. Please move directly into the house. Please help keep our community safe by maintaining a distance.
gave them to him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go back to that globe looking icon.
This guy?
Yeah. There we go, try that one.
This one? It says,
Good, good.
are you guys good over there? Sherry? Perfect. I'm just trying to get to the board doc. Oh, okay.
Accept and continue, should be good.
All right, thanks.
So what can I get my board docs?
I can work on that if you want to.
District.
I mean, I can.
Yeah,
You sure?
Well, Craig's working on his now, too. So
we're
I'll
good.
give it like
I'm
another
good.
30 seconds.
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you would join me in a moment of silence. Okay, then if you would rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sherry, if you could do roll call.
Erica Connor?
Here.
Mary D. Moore?
Don't know.
Joel Frederick?
Yep.
Andy Mankey?
Here.
Art Schneider?
Coming.
Craig Burt?
Here.
Jeff Vogel?
Here.
Bill Warner? Here. Sherry Winchowski's here.
Okay, so we will go ahead and we will start with our citizens' comments. After I remind you that this is an open meeting and it has been noted as such, we have 2 citizens' comments that came in via email that Jeff will read for us.
The first citizen's comment is from Mike Foley. To whom it may concern, I am an MHS alumni class of 1979. I am writing to express my support of the Indians' nickname for all the school's sports teams. I believe that the Indians' nickname honors the village heritage, as Mukwonago is an Indian word meaning a place of the bear. I hope that the current administration does not bow to pressure from outside forces that want to see all Indian nicknames abolished. Stay strong and defend the Indian name. Thank you, Michael D. Foley, class of 1979. The second is from Bradley Johnson. To Mukwonago area school board members, I am asking that you continue to require the use of face masks by students and teachers in the Mukwonago schools. The pandemic is not over yet. We cannot put our children or teachers at further risk. My note to Governor Evers below. Governor Evers, the face mask requirement that you instituted earlier is about to expire. I am asking that you renew the face mask requirement for all businesses and schools. I know you get a lot of resistance from Republican legislators and their constituents who think they are immune from the COVID-19 pandemic. I am imploring you make the face mask requirement be mandatory in all schools in Wisconsin for at least another 6 months. I personally have a son and a daughter-in-law who are teachers and 2 grandchildren in elementary schools in the Mukwonago area. They are in constant danger of contracting this disease. Do not knuckle under to those who think this pandemic is under control. They are putting everybody at risk. Sincerely, Bradley A. Johnson.
All right, thank you, Jeff. We have one in person tonight, Lisa Deppy on CDC guidelines.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Deppy. I have a son, 2 sons here at Mukwonago High School, and I'm going to speak a little bit about fear versus fact. Fear. People will be dropping dead in the streets due to COVID-19. The fact is, as of today, 1,283 of Wisconsin's 5.8 million citizens have died from COVID-19. That is 0.02% of Wisconsin's population. As of yesterday, Waukesha County, with a population of nearly 399,000, has had 87,513 tests administered since March. 7,362 have been positive. Of those positive tests, 87 people, again, 0.02% of Waukesha County's population have died. In the 0 to 19 age demographic, there are no COVID-19 deaths. Fear, MASD cannot treat either the CDC guidelines, county guidance, or Ben Jones's expectations as anything but word from on high. Fact, there is no law in our state or county regarding social distancing, contact tracing, quarantine, or COVID-19. In fact, the CDC guidelines, as defined by their name, are just that, guidelines. Fear, our hospitals will look like Italy's. Fact, the southeast region of Wisconsin, which includes Fond du Lac, Sheboygan, Washington, Milwaukee, Walworth, Racine, Kenosha, and Waukesha County, as of yesterday, has 188 hospitalized COVID patients, 63 of which are in ICUs. 63 people, 63 in 8 counties occupy ICU beds in the southeast region's 36 hospitals. Fear, keeping kids apart and at home is keeping kids safe. Fact, the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics state that an in-person education provides students the best opportunities for academic, social, and emotional learning, as well as exercise, healthy meals, and mental health services. Fear, as of today, Mukwonago, we have 106 students in quarantine, and 106 of them will get COVID-19. Fact, the vast majority of quarantine students are healthy and capable of in-person learning. Fear, this school board will be tarred and feathered should you deviate from the county's guidance regarding contact tracing.
15 seconds.
Fact, contact tracing is unscientific, biased, discriminatory, and legally problematic. In addition, participation in the county's contact tracing data collection is not mandatory and thus inaccurate. I'm gonna get all of this in.
Quickly finish.
CDC guidelines used as guidelines will cause us to lose teachers and effectively shut down in-person learning. Fact, a mandatory social distancing policy for teachers will keep them in the classroom. Fear, a lawsuit will break us. Fact, as we wait for Wisconsin legislature to pass LRB 6434, liability for COVID-19 on premises, to provide a statewide shield, a liability waiver for Mukwonago families can effectively protect you. Fear, by adopting the CDC guidelines as guidelines, we are not doing our job. Fact, your job is to provide in-person education that we've chose, want, and pay for. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to our student rep report. We have not had a student rep in the house in quite some time, so welcome.
Thank you. This is one of the first times I'd say I was excited to do this because we're actually back in school. So I'd like to start off at Mukwonago High School. The drama students are hard at work preparing their 3 different one-act plays for the start of November. They are working in smaller, separate groups to ensure social distancing, and their whole work is student-directed. This will be one of the first years that it will be streamed for all family, friends, and relatives, so please mark your calendars for the first week of November to check out their work. Also, Parkview Middle School has brought students outside as much as possible. They've been utilizing outside spaces along with their courtyard and maintaining social distancing along with masks, as you can see from the pictures. They also have been offering a virtual option to continue to engage in group discussions with other students and with teachers. Section Elementary School has brilliantly crafted the book bus. This bus allows students to continue to have a book in hand despite their changing library schedules. Both the 5th and 6th grade classes at Section selected a Who Was book in order to learn more about historical figures. Along with this, 2 teachers have been co-teaching in some classrooms, one via Zoom and one from their desk, to help young students become more comfortable with the idea of teaching from Zoom. At Eagleville Elementary School, they have had a wonderful start to their school year focusing on the heart of Eagleville, which is building a community and environmental education. They've brought their kids outside more than ever, spending hours by the creek and in outdoor tents. Despite COVID, kindergartners still rang their first bells, and students were able to participate in their annual walkathon. Virtually, teachers are doing a ton of work and have brought class materials to students' doorsteps to do porch visits. They are also using lots of different methods to continue to engage their kids. On the online version linked, there are some presentations by different students. You can check out what they are working on. At Rolling Hills, they began their year with fast testing to determine where students have their strengths and weaknesses. The teachers will have a meeting to discuss the results they got. Teachers are also working hard to build relationships in case they go virtual. This way, they will have gotten to know teachers and students on a more personal level. Also, they will be doing their fall book fair online, so students can have books shipped directly to their door so they can still participate. At Big Bend, their fourth graders have started their year with a unit on Wisconsin. They made salt clay maps featuring the Mississippi River, Wisconsin River, and more. Students were able to have a lot of fun making these maps. Prairie View has had to cancel many events due to COVID, but the staff has remained helpful and welcoming. Students are happy to be back in the classroom and are always smiling. Clarendon began their school year with fun spirit days. Even though the year has just begun, they have already awarded many super roars to students making excellent choices. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to the consent agenda. I'm looking for approval of board minutes from August 10th, 2020 and August 24th, 2020, as well as approval of voucher numbers 129944 to 130313 in the amount of $2.8 million and change, and receipts for August 2020 totaling $6.9 million and change. Do I have any questions or concerns? Okay, they're approved by consent. Before we jump into our committee updates, Tom has a presentation for us via Zoom from our Baird rep.
I'm here. Tom. Yes.
So Lisa's going to talk us through here real quickly about what tonight's action items number 4. There's a resolution we're going to hopefully approve here to refinance our debt and save just over $750,000. So without further ado, Lisa, I'll turn it over to you to walk us through what we're going to do tonight.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone. I'm sorry I'm not able to be there. Baird is keeping us home now, probably till the end of the year. And I also never thought I'd be back in front of you guys because we locked in such low rates in 2016 when we did the financing. But I'll just tell you that interest rates are at the all-time recorded low since COVID. They've just been coming down. I think you might have the handout. They do? Okay, so page 3 just gives you the interest rate chart. That just is kind of a look back of where rates are and what's happened in the last year is shaded in blue there. Bottom line is, you know, your rates right now for your bonds are right in that low 2% range, 204, maybe even lower. We can lock in depending on when that happens. So your rates on your old bonds, the 2016 bonds, were in the 3 to 4% range. So again, we have a database of all the debt in Wisconsin for all schools, and we run it periodically when interest rates are low. And your debt issue rose to the top, and that's why I was on the phone with Tom a couple of weeks ago, that we wanted to just kind of monitor and watch it, and rates have held low. And right now, again, we're looking at savings of about $765,000. Now that'll change tomorrow, and it was different yesterday. It just, our goal is to get at a minimum of that, if not more. So a little bit about the process, and then I'll show you some of the details of the numbers. The process is just, tonight you would be adopting what we call a parameters resolution. I think some of the board might be familiar with a parameters resolution. It's an 8 or 10 page document that lays all the parameters out for the bonds. And then it gives us the ability to lock any time when interest rates are low and we're able to hit those targeted savings. So what you're doing tonight by adopting this resolution is really giving Baird the authority to go move forward, work on the paperwork that needs to get done, which will include a bond rating, and then lock in when rates are low and we're hitting your targets. So we will have a bond rating call, we'll have a disclosure council with the administration. And again, you know, just to continue to monitor and watch the market, and if we can get those low rates, we'll definitely do that. I guess it's the second page of the handout, it gets into a little bit more detail about the financing. And what you really care about as a board is what kind of savings are we talking about? So I mentioned the $765,000, but it's annually about $110,000 lower on your debt levy. So that's direct taxpayer savings for about $110,000 for the next out to 2035. We are also shortening up the loan 1 year. So instead of paying it off in 2036, which was originally a 20-year loan, we're able to pay it off in 2035 and still save a significant amount on an annual basis. Now this includes the tax levy that Tom is planning on, or the board is planning on adopting, which is about $3 million more for prepayment. So we're using that $3 million additional tax levy this fall to help offset the debt service costs and help us to shorten the bond issue. So again, you really care about that right-hand side and where it says on the bottom right-hand corner, the $765,000 or 2.3%, because the parameters is 2% or more of what we're refunding. So you just take the total present value savings divided by what we're refunding. And if it's more than 2%, then the parameters resolution will allow us to lock in. So I'll pause there and see if there's any questions.
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. So is the action item gonna come later on the agenda? Okay. Okay. All right, perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will go into committee updates, and I will go ahead and start with personnel.
So minutes, those were approved at the last meeting, and then moving right into the 403B match participation. I believe Sean, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, in the Personnel Committee, there was an exhibit that I provided that shows our rates of participation. For the vast majority, we have a small handful of teachers that are grandfathered in an old retirement benefit that's not available anymore. So those employees that are in tiers 5 through 7, which is all new hires and a few extras that came before them, are eligible for a $500 match from the district, provided that they put $500 into a 403B or a 457. And our participation has gone up quite a bit. We've tried to make people aware and get them their financial game plan in their own personal life online, and participate in this is a good step to do that. So we've been able to increase those numbers dramatically. I think we had 217 employees participate in that, which
Tom,
is...
I'm having trouble hearing you. I don't know if
I'm
the
sorry.
people in the audience are, but...
We've increased our participation quite a bit in that program, and that was the essence of the update there. So we're doing a good job of getting more and more employees to pay attention to their financial position, which helps them become better employees when they can put one personal issue to bed, so to speak. So we're helping them with that, and the participation is up.
Thank you, Tom. Historical teacher retention data?
Susan is here, so she can comment on that for you, Andy.
Yep, Susan?
So the data that I provided to the Personnel Committee really showed that despite a lot of turmoil and such going on, that really our retention rate has stayed very steady. We lost some individuals this year, but really looking over the last 10 years plus, our retention rate has stayed fairly steady. So I think that speaks highly to that. In comparing some other districts I have there for you, their resignations are much higher. So we did a good job. We did lose some retirements that we knew might have been a year or two down the line, and maybe those came a little sooner than we expected. But all in all, our trends are showing a positive nature.
Thank you, Susan. Erica, that's all I have.
All right, then we will move on to finance and facilities update. Student learning. I skipped you. Sorry. Student learning update.
Okay, we talked about, we had some board policies that we reviewed, and we saw no changes in them, so we recommended bringing them to the board. There were no changes in them. We also discussed the policy for the middle school math credits, counting only as electives rather than high school transcript, and more information is being brought back in October in regards to that. We had to approve some new classes at the high school, and the curriculums were brought to us, and we reviewed those and had our comments, and everything was passed on but one, and we're looking at that one next month. Stephanie presented the hybrid model at Mukwonago that would be used in case if there were safety concerns, and that's it.
Okay, and then finance and facilities. We talked about all of our plexiglass dividers, and we got a great presentation on all of the great work that Andy Wagner and his team at Buildings and Grounds did to save us quite a bit of money by doing the work themselves rather than hiring that out. I would tell you the numbers, but my board docs doesn't want to open any attachments right now. So if somebody wants to share that, feel free. Do you have that in front of you, Tom?
Yeah, I do. Andy and his team, by making those plastic dividers in-house rather than ordering them pre-made and pre-assembled, saved our district over $221,000. A lot of man hours went into that by Andy and others, so thanks again for all that. And it's good savings by Andy, what he was able to do with his team. I know Ron Pond is here, so a lot of people contributed to that cause.
And then we talked about transportation updates and just things that we can do to try to help keep the buses available for sports events, and how to maybe reschedule or schedule things more carefully to make sure that we have enough. Food service updates. We're serving a lot of lunch right now, and again, Tom, would you mind sharing? Because I can't look at any.
So at the meeting, I had noted that our food service counts were down about 30%. So we're a la carte sales as we compared the first 10 days of this school year to the first 10 days of last year. But since then, we have the federal government, the United States Department of Agriculture, approved free lunch for all kids, not just students, but all kids under the ages of 18. So that has, since I last saw you last week, Monday, has increased our accounts dramatically. So it puts a little bit of stress and pressure on the food service department and those 50 employees to really deal with a fluctuating and moving target of how many lunches to make each day. But they're keeping up, they're doing well. Their job is tough, but they're answering the bell there.
Would you mind continuing on for me a little bit through finance facilities? So
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
K-12 trends?
So number 5, I shared a Wisconsin Policy Forum article with the committee and with all of you that really just discussed about the last 20 years of the state of school finances in the state of Wisconsin as a whole. So it was just some good, interesting information and things to consider. I really think in the State Assembly and the State Senate, as they craft their next biennial budget for the 2021 through the 2023 school years. In number 6, then, we talked about designating fund balance. Last school year, we intentionally left behind money to help bridge any funding gap we might find ourselves with this year. We designated $1.8 million in committed fund balance specifically for the purpose and no other purpose of getting through this current school year. So there's $1.8 million that we left behind to fill any funding shortfall that we might have. So that those dollars can't be used in any other manner unless it's by a majority action of the board here. So as we revisit the end of this current fiscal year, we'll talk about what to do at that time with any dollars that may remain. And then finally, I gave number 7, I gave a 2021 budget update. At this time, everything is moving forward with a $10,000 per member revenue limit. right now, based on where we're at right now with our existing traditional cost and our new cost as it relates to technology and technology platforms to do all of our virtual offerings, our expanded workforce to make that, to deliver that service to the kids who are learning virtually. Next month, when I come back and we finalize our budget and our tax levy, I will bring a budget back that is going to be between $1 and $1.3 million, where expenditures exceed revenues, but that's where the $1.8 million we're leaving behind comes in. So I didn't want anybody to be surprised by that when we get to that point next month. I will bring a full detailed accounting of what that additional spending is towards, so you can see and understand what that's about. And that's it.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
We are going to, did anybody have any questions for Tom? Okay, then we will go ahead and we will move on to action items. We have appointments, resignations, and retirements.
So continuing with I guess I'll do resignations first. We have a resignation to bring to you, and that is Eric Weir. Eric was a program assistant in our Pupil Services Department, and Eric took a position as a special ed director. So that's a position he had wanted, and we're sorry to see him go, but I'm glad that he found a position that he wanted. So we wish him well. Continuing to look at an expansion of our workforce due to the addition of our virtual learning. We have 4 hires that are in that virtual learning. That is Maria Salazar Canterbury. She's a bilingual teacher who is a new grad from UW Parkside, and she is going to be teaching math, limited term for the 2021 school year. She graduated with a degree in math with a Spanish minor. Christy Butterbrodt is a social studies teacher. She's a new grad from UW Whitewater, major in history education with a geography minor. She's limited term for the 2021 school year. Rebecca Heilengenthal is a speech and language pathologist. She's joining us limited term for the 2021 school year, and she'll be primarily at Rolling Hills. Jeffrey Fisher is our virtual learning special education teacher, limited term. He has 8 years of experience in both Kenosha and Delavan Darien, and he'll be providing services to the high school. And then Diane Pollock is a rehire. She's been with us since 2017, working in the Title I services, and as you know, that's a limited term position due to funds that we get, and so we're recommending her rehire.
I'd like to make a motion we approve these.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion carries. We'll move on to Neola policy updates.
So this month and next month, we'll have a number of Neola policy updates. And again, these are legal or language updates, very small, minor changes. So make sure that our policies are in compliance with new or updated state law or federal law. And so as we have in the past, we take a look at these, and if the board has a question or a concern about one of the changes, we usually pull that one out, approve the rest, and then come back next month with more information or answers to the questions that board might have about those policies. Otherwise, we waive the second reading and approve the legal updates at this time.
Did anybody have any questions? Are you all right with waiving the second reading? I need a motion for that.
Motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second to waive the second reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then I did read through all of these. They definitely seem fine to me, just very legal. I don't know if you guys saw them all. It was good reading. Come on, you guys. So I'm looking for a motion to approve policies, all the updates from 100 to 2260, and then from 2260 to 4362.
Motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. The administrator contract renewals, are we doing that in executive session, or are we talking about that now?
So if I could explain it now, and then if someone has a question or concern, we can discuss it in executive session. But we're looking to extend several administrators an additional year on their contract. These administrators, their contract would expire at the end of this school year on June 30, 2021. And so we're looking to extend them by 1 year to June 30 of 2022, which is usually what we do at this time of the year. And those administrators are Stephanie Blue, Director of Student Learning, Rachel Crockford, Principal at Section, Jim Darren, Principal at MHS, Andrea Kaplan, Principal at Clarendon, Tom Karthauser, Director of Business Services, Dustin Lehman, College and Career Readiness Coordinator, Lee Becky, AP Associate Principal at Parkview, Susan Minter, Director of Human Resources, Ron Schlick, Principal at Rolling Hills, Luke Spielman, Principal at Parkview Middle School, Andy Trudell, our Athletic and Activity Director for the district, Val Voss, Principal at Prairie View, and Sean Waller, Principal at Big Bend.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Any other questions or discussion?
So on the memo, I had Christine Bowden, but her contract is through the June 30 of 2022. So it was a mistake that her name was on there. We're really happy that she's continuing with us. We hope she stays with us.
We at least roped her in for 4 years, right? This is a scary first year. Can we go ahead and approve these now, or do we need to go to executive session?
If you're okay with them,
though?
we can approve them.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Last call. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
And then regarding our Baird presentation, we have the resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed 37 million taxable general obligations refunding bonds.
So yeah, you got the information from Lisa earlier. If you guys have any questions, which you didn't before, but if you do, you can ask them now. If not, we're looking to adopt the resolution that's included in the packet as presented.
A motion. I second.
I have a motion, Mary, a second, Cherry. Any other discussion otherwise, other than to say, keep it up, Baird and Lisa's team? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now we'll move on to the virtual learning model enrollment cap. Stephanie is here.
Yes, so Stephanie is here to explain this memo, and this is something new that we did not bring to the committee, not surprisingly, as we go through this highly unusual year with face-to-face learning and a virtual learning model that's brand new. We do have some unexpected situations that do arise, and so Stephanie is here to explain a challenge that we have.
So you'll see in the top grid there are numbers as they sit with virtual school, and this is probably a good time to remind you that when we started building this model for our year in COVID, that we thought we'd probably have 200 to 400 students who registered in our virtual model K-12 based on original surveys. We're at 652 right now. Then below that, we have the number of students that have been adding each week or requesting and adding as we go. And so, again, the first couple of weeks are the numbers that we were maybe expecting of families to get into the school buildings, maybe realizing that they didn't feel as safe as they thought they would, or that they would, there would be safety issues. And we had 9 in those first 2 weeks. And then you'll see that we've jumped to 18 and 10 in the weeks after that. And what we are starting to see in the requests are requests completely not related to COVID. And absolutely, we want to continue, I hope, a virtual school down the road, or look at having a model for families for this. But again, I need to remind the board of the reason that we created it this year, which was kind of an emergency situation to offer learning to families that didn't feel safe being in our building. Well, we now have families, definitely more and more requests out of those last 28 that are coming in, not related to safety in our building, but related to my child is not necessarily finding success in the face-to-face world, so can we switch virtual? Or there's anxieties with things, could we switch to virtual? Requests to just take a couple classes online because of an English class that isn't working out or a social studies class that's working out. And so that leads me to my next point is with the 652, I think we're realizing that we need to make a commitment at this point, one way or another. The first would be to possibly, or to look at hiring new teachers. Our 7-12 teachers especially are pretty much at capacity. I included the graph on the second page that will show you the numbers that those teachers have, and please do keep in mind we're not comparing apples to apples in being face-to-face in a building and with our virtual teachers. They are not prepping for all of these classes. On the other hand, when we're getting up to numbers like we're seeing, that Kyle Barton has 191 students that he's supporting and multiple English classes in the building, or Katie Kozlowski at 203 social studies students that she's supporting. We're on a top tier for that. So we could look at hiring more teachers, which is going to add to the budget for this year. We also have a complication of the fact that we did throw a posting out there about a week ago for virtual social studies, science, English, and math teacher, just to see where we were at. We don't have a lot of applicants for those positions. I think we have 2 that have come in for social studies, 3 for math, 2 for English, and we don't have anyone for science, should we need to add in those categories. In addition, at semester, we can't predict students coming back. They'll be given the option, remember, K-6 at trimesters and 7-12 at semester. So should we have a lot of students who return to the building at that point, we're gonna have hires that maybe at that point don't have full loads. In addition, I have definite concerns in talking with the teachers at this point about students shifting into the virtual world, because a lot of the background that will make them successful, that work has been done, and now we're up and moving. And it's becoming more and more difficult for students that are not possibly strong academically, organized, to move into that environment and will allow us to see success. So I do have concerns at this point about just shifting anyone who asks to come into the virtual environment, given the fact that, again, it was created for COVID. It doesn't necessarily have the layers of support that we would do in a normal virtual school that will create down the road, and that we're setting those kids up for academic failure instead of success to add at this point in time. I am recommending at this point that we still look at by a case-by-case basis of recommendations that come in, but we are limiting those students switching into the virtual world, those students who have true medical concerns that will create issues for them being in the building with COVID, but that we deny other requests at this point not related to that. Questions?
Are you considering anxiety a medical reason, or are you considering that not?
That's a great question, Sherry. Clearly, it is a medical reason. I am going to suggest for this year moving forward and talking to the counselors and seeing the applications coming in, that those students stay in building until semester, when we could reconsider that and create some different structures.
My comment to that then is I believe, I understand what you're saying, and that's the commitment that virtual people made, that they would not come into the building, they would not go back. However, I believe for mental health reasons that anxiety, if can be proven or not documented isn't what I'm trying to say, if it can be justified, that be considered a medical, and that's not, that we're not saying that's not a good enough reason. If it's for,
Sure.
I'm not doing good in my English class, that's a different thing.
Correct.
But I do not feel comfortable saying, as of right now, if it's anxiety, you can't leave.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and there is a difference in the applications we're seeing come in.
Jill?
What is the process and timing of when, how a parent or / student will make the decision to go back into the classroom? And, I mean, what happens if, you know, you get 50% of those kids that say, I'm going back to school? And then what are we doing with those teachers? I'm totally supportive of your proposal here, because I do not think we should be adding more teachers at this point. So, but on the back end, give us a scenario on the flip end of what happens if we lose half these kids and they go back into, and how much time do you have to react, and how are we going to manage that?
So we already put out a survey today that went home to our K-6 families, because they're going to have the first chance to flip back at second trimester. So we put out a survey today to them saying this is not your final decision. That doesn't need to be made until November 12th, I think, for K-6 families. But so we can get an idea of staffing in the buildings, and if we're going to need to be putting some of our virtual staff back into buildings at that point to support students coming back into the building, and how we would reallocate within our virtual world. So we're going to get the first pulse on that, I guess, this week as things are coming in. And then we'll need to do the same thing at semester. We have multiple high school teachers who have said, like, we'll go back in if we can. And so we knew from the get-go, that's not news, that we're gonna have to restructure at each segment that people are gonna be able to go back in. I do think we're almost midpoint of the first quarter, so I think just changing in general right now is probably not the best academic idea. So I definitely support that. I will say I'm encouraged to hear that there are families that are desiring the virtual option, because I know as a board we've been discussing this as a building block down the road in the very near future to have a virtual school. So that is encouraging to me to continue to move forward with that more permanent thing. But in the meantime, we did ask everyone to commit to a semester or trimester when they sign up either way. So I think it's a fair request or proposal that we have to cap it with the ability for for those exceptions like you pointed out. But this is listed as an action item. So you're looking for guidance and approval of that tonight, correct? Yeah, I fear if we wait until October that then the overload on our teachers, yep, and we'll continue to add students that I just don't think we're setting up for academic success. Does anybody have any other questions on this? Okay, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept Stephanie's proposal to cap virtual registration.
Second.
I have I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. You're welcome. Unfinished business, superintendent's report.
Sure, I'm going to be brief, but I do have a couple of updates I want to share. So, as you know, last year at this time, we agreed to allow Rolling Hills to be an election site for the town of Mukwonago. The last two primary elections was not needed, but this coming November 3rd, they will be using Rolling Hills as a voting place for the town of Mukwonago. And we're just letting you know that they did inform us, and that's a go. We don't have school on November 3rd. You approved that as part of the 2021 calendar last December or January. So our staff will be doing in-service on that day, but our students will be at home. An enrollment update, quick. So the previous Friday was the third Friday, and Tom can share a little bit about our resident enrollment, but it is not finalized. Do you want to give a brief update on resident enrollment, Tom?
So our FTE, as we count the number of students inside of our district's boundaries that are attending public schools here or elsewhere, last year we had just over 4,700 kids. This year, as of our third Friday, we're at 4,579. So we're down about 135 FTE. I'd say that as I look at the numbers for that, last year we had 227 4K students, district residents that attended public schools. This year is 169. I'm gonna guess here that a lot of parents are choosing not to enter 4K this year for their own personal reasons, but it's a significant dip from 227 down to 169. Last year's five-year-old kindergarten classes had 348 kids. This year it's 285, so we're down just about 65 students there. And then we're also down in our first through 12th grade students. Students that choose to homeschool are a reason why that FTE can dip, because we don't get any funding for a student that is homeschooled. We did our third Friday counts here just 2 Fridays ago. Students who choose to homeschool have to fill out a form with the state to declare that they are homeschooling, but that form is not due until October 15th. So we can't really comment on how many kids are homeschooling, if it changed from the last year into this year, but my guess is that it has. So point here is that we're down 135 FTE. So as we take $10,000 per member, there's 135 less kids to apply that number to.
Of course, that is part of a 3-year rolling average, and if you read the latest communication from the WASB, you know that the WASB and the Wisconsin Association of School Administrators are lobbying the state legislature that this year should not be counted as part of that 3-year rolling average. Obviously, there are some highly unusual enrollment situations this year, and so that to be determined, we'll continue to talk to our legislators about not counting this year as part of that 3-year rolling average. Despite the dip in resident enrollment, we have very good news for open enrollment. We continue to be a destination district. This year we have 609 open enrollment students coming into the district. So 609, and that's an increase from 540 last year. So 69 more students coming into the district, open enrolling into the district this year. And also, as far as outgoing open enrollment, we have some good news there too. Last year we had 271 students leaving our district via open enrollment. This year we're down to 241. And if we do believe that if we continue to have a virtual offering, we'll continue to decrease that outgoing open enrollment number for next year. So some good news there, and that can offset some of the loss of revenue for the resident enrollment. Any questions on enrollment? So right now, we're again educating about 4,996 students in our district, roughly 5,000 students.
And when we're able to confirm and finalize all of those numbers, are you going to send those our way?
Sorry, Eric, can you say that again?
When do you confirm and finalize the numbers? Is it in October, the 15th? Or is it pretty close to solid now?
Laura, are we still waiting to hear back on open enroll status from a couple other districts at this time? Okay. So this is...
That's pretty solid.
Materially, it's finalized. There might be a swing up or down a couple kids,
Okay.
but it's not going to change much.
All right, sounds good. Any other questions for them? All right, board president report. Ultimately, I thought this meeting was going to be very different in terms of decisions and discussions to be made, but with the extension of the mask mandate, that's going to push off until October. We are going to, over the committee meetings this next month, we're going to be talking about contingency plans if mask mandate is repealed and just what that might look like. So we're just going to have that dialogue and those discussions of what we're thinking, what we're feeling. We agreed when we passed in July to recheck and kind of rediscuss it every 6 weeks. So we are heading kind of into that timeline. So we'll be looking at a lot of that over the course of the next month. And if there are any decisions that need to be made, we'll vote on October 26th. But all in all, I'm super encouraged school is going. It is going pretty well. I know that there are frustrations with quarantines. I had one in my house. It's frustrating, but as we talked over the summer, we're all going to have a little bit of grace and patience this year to get through it, and it's actually school is going pretty well. I know the high school had a little bit of a hiccup, but I may have looked at all of the other schools' COVID dashboards today in Waukesha County just to see where we were measuring up, and we are right in there. It seems to be kind of the case all across the board. I even looked at one of the districts that is hybrid. and in one of their high schools, they have the same number as us. So that was kind of an encouragement to me that even if we had chosen hybrid, there's no guarantees. There's just no guarantees of what any of this will look like. Now, a lot of the other hybrid schools are very, very low, but it just shows that anything can happen. So I am encouraged. I hope you guys are encouraged as well. If students in multiple buildings, and they're happy to be there. So we will just continue this discussion over the course of this month. Any questions about anything? Otherwise, we'll move to the donation recognition.
Sure, so correspondence and donation recognition. So first in your packet or on board docs, you'll see a letter from the WASB congratulating Erica Connor for reaching level 3 in the WASB recognition program. Erica will be recognized at the Region 11 meeting on Wednesday, and I believe that meeting is virtual this year due to COVID. We do want to thank you, Erica, for your work as president of the school board, but also for your participation in board development sessions, programs, and events, and of course, being our board rep for the delegate assembly.
I don't know if I am that person this year, though. I think we voted on Jill, and it's virtual, so that could be very
Well, I
interesting.
don't know that they'll take your level 3 recognition away for that, but. And then some donation recognitions. First, the Rotary Club of Mukwonago made a donation for $500 to our 18 to 21 transition program. As you are aware, we've made some significant improvements to our 18 to 21 program to help our students with special needs transition from school to the world of work. And we want to thank the Mukwonago Rotary Club, a longtime valued community partner, for their continued generosity. And speaking of valued community partners, the Mukwonago Kiwanis Foundation has donated another iPad to a student in the MASD with special needs. Kiwanis Club and the Kiwanis Foundation make frequent donations to our students and staff, and this is one of several iPads that they have donated in recent years. And then finally, we want to thank Carl and Margaret Wilhelm for their generous donation of books to John Stives' class at Eagleville Charter School. The Wilhelm kids attended Eagleville, and now I think they're in middle school and high school, but we appreciate the family's continued support of the school. Their generosity will enable Eagleville students to grow their passion for reading. And I know the kids love to see that increased selection of books in Mr. Stives' class. It was wonderful, so thanks to the Wilhelm family.
John, can I add one more there to it? We
absolutely.
recognize this family at the Finance Committee, but I want to give recognition here, and I apologize if I say the name wrong here. Amy and Len Rollier they have made a donation for a mobile air filtration system to Big Bend Elementary that's being used to filter the air in their health room. So that was a very generous donation from that family, so I want to give them their recognition here. So thanks to them.
Did you talk about this? Are we talking about this, or is this just for us?
So that is correspondence that I'm going to explain. It is part of Bulow Vetter's legal response that we'll be discussing in an executive session.
Okay, so do we have any other board member questions before we head into executive session? None? We're letting Sean off easy tonight. All right, then, if I could get a motion to move into executive session.
I'd like to make that motion. Second.
Motion and second. Sherry, could you do roll call for us?
Sherry Winchowski here, Jill Warner. Here. Jeff Vogel.
Yes.
Craig Vert.
Here.
Art Schneider.
Yeah.
Andy Mankey.
Here.
Joel Frederick.
Here.
Mary D. Moore. Yep. Erica Connor.
Yes. Okay, we will go ahead and move into executive session.
So just so everyone knows that we don't have any action items after this, so people in the audience, this is going to conclude the public portion of our meeting. So we'll go into executive session in a neighboring classroom here, and then after that executive session is completed, we'll adjourn from there, and that will